demand. If you're injecting artificial supply into the marketplace on a given day, company trades 1 million shares, and you're going to make sure it sells 3 million shares, but 2 million of it sold electronically and nothing's delivered, well, of course the stock's going to go down. Any focus group we've talked to in these cases, any jury, we've never got to a jury because these cases is settled for the most part in the last 15 years. So at the end of the day, it's easy to understand. So I think the company, to uphold its fiduciary duty, but also figuring out how they can survive, needs to align itself with good financiers. I'm
going to stop there because the good financiers is important. I think there's an intentional move on the part of William Lee with NIO with respect to that. But we're going to come back to this. Now, I'm going to share this. This was a live stream, and Wes Christian is the guy who was speaking. He is a beast of an attorney. He said it himself. Rarely, if ever, have the shorts ever even wanted to see him at trial. So they always settle rather than have to deal with him. But we're going to come back to this financier point at the end of the video, because first of all, I want to actually cover a couple of things. What is naked short selling? Naked short selling refers to the practice of selling shares that an investor doesn't own and hasn't borrowed. And that was kind of his reference there when he was like, well, yeah, you just trade 2 million shares that you don't own basically electronically, and then just put off having to deal with that. Now, those sometimes come back through and show as fails to deliver. But the practice of naked short selling in the United States is illegal, but it's legal in some other countries, and that matters. First, let's look at the fails to deliver. And the issue with these is it's delayed data. It's not real-time data. It's at least 2 weeks trailing. And this is one of the reasons that for traders, it's so difficult to know what's going to happen because they never have access to all the real-time data. But if you look at the white lines, those represent and show the fails to deliver on a certain day. The yellow line represents the stock price. And this is just a short kind of brief history of NIO, but you can see there's an apparent correlation here with the fails to deliver dropping off and the stock price being higher versus when the fails to deliver are higher and the stock price is lower. It's just, it seems really obvious. I've done a deeper dive and a longer, bigger picture overview of this. This happened, and it was really obvious when you looked at the historical chart for NIO and saw the way the stock price ran from $2 to over $60. And there was just a big drop off on the fails to deliver, kind of like this, but even a bigger, more obvious point where the fails to deliver had been really heavy. The white lines had been really high for a long time up until that point. Then they dropped off. And that was apparently the short squeeze that NIO went through. Now, this was, I'm going to remind you, if you didn't see this before, this popped up, and this is from European dealers were offering this. And this, if it is legal to use naked short selling in markets globally, like in some of the European markets, then it makes sense that we have this sort of thing going on. Now, note that the fails to deliver chart I just showed are only for the US. That doesn't track everything globally. And this is one of the issues, is this is not just a US problem. This is a global problem. Wes Christian talked about that. He actually referenced how it looks like there could be trillions. Now, this is not just for one stock. This is across the markets, but trillions of shares. And if these shares are being made up and used to suppress stock price action, then not only does that affect the stock price in the short term, but it also changes what's supposed to be the float, because there are a certain number of shares that a stock supposedly has or that a company issues. But if there are, who knows how many, let's say 10 million extra shares that aren't real shares, but that are being used as if they were real shares, then that affects things. It's also a misrepresentation then, because by default, you have all this extra fake value, this artificial value that's been created, but it doesn't correlate to what the company actually has out there in outstanding shares and debts. So there's just so much more to this, and I can't possibly share it all, but I'll link everything, all these little snippets in that live stream, so that you can hopefully do some due diligence on your own and dig into this a little further. But to recap, then I'll finish with the fiduciary thing, because I want to make that point. I think profitability is the key pivotal thing for William Lee and NIO to recognize and move towards. And I hope he knows that. I think he might, but we'll see. First of all, to recap, we've got the naked short selling and the FTDs. So naked short selling, illegal in the US, but legal in some other jurisdictions, right? Fails to deliver are perhaps one way we can kind of track, but it's not real-time data. It's only delayed data that we can then look back at. So then if you've got the US fails to deliver as that 2 weeks trailing, but then we don't even know what all the other global markets are doing, and some of those markets allow naked shorting, then it's just a big mess. I mean, how do you possibly wade through all of that? And so, and I think that's one of the challenges Wes Christian as an attorney has come up against, is that because of all the other markets, because of this becoming a bigger global problem, it's even more difficult for him to even properly perform the due diligence needed to go to court and to have a trial against some of these folks. And so it just slows things down, which creates more of an opportunity for the shorts to make money in the short term. And that's one of the reasons I don't think the right play is to try and litigate and go after them, at least not initially, at least not if you're a company like NIO that has a chance to become profitable in the shorter term. I do think they have that, and they've given us a glimpse of that in the third quarter earnings. But one of the issues is the disconnect. Even with NIO analysts, only one caught that in the latest earnings call. So, that really opens the door further for shorts in the short term until NIO can get to profitability, which is why that's so important. Now, the financier part is, this is where I think the no share buyback for NIO, it makes the most sense right now. Now, later, after they're profitable and after things have corrected, and maybe we've seen a short squeeze, I don't know if we'll see another one. I don't know why we wouldn't if this is going on, but that's not why I've been in the play, or not why I'm in the play. My thought is with William Lee, I think he recognized the short selling issue, and that's why he went to Abu Dhabi to do the capital raise rather than a market offering. I think he knew he could share with them more of what NIO is doing, including some of the potential profitable things that maybe others aren't yet recognizing. And so Abu Dhabi said, yeah, this makes sense. We're in. And that was smart, I think, on his part, because that meant he didn't have to go to the market and raise capital. However, they still need to get to profitability to show that they don't have to continue raising capital, or he would have to go to these government sources and some of these other partners strategically and sort of quietly in the background and not do the market offering. So this is getting really crazy, really fast with the stock price action. But that's why I want to do this video and kind of talk about overview, not just about NIO, but this global issue that is ongoing. So if NIO does a share buyback now, I don't think it makes sense, because we don't have any idea what actual number of shares are out there, especially with all the artificial shares in global markets that could be used to suppress stock price. And because we don't have transparency with that, I think it makes more sense for NIO to focus on profitability. But I want to hear from others and see what they're thinking. I have not been able to get to comments in the last couple of videos, and I hope to get to comments in this one. Maybe I'll even do a comments and response video to this. But yeah, my apologies. I've got way too much going on, and it's just, I know it's a crazy time. People are all over the place. The emotions are running wild for some. I can just see it in the comment sections. But there again, that's where for me, nothing changes. It's all about focusing on the research and digging and trying to see what's going on. And I really, for me, it's almost like this. You've got the stock price action, you've got what the company is doing, and the two are completely misaligned in my view. But I want to hear from others. So drop it in the comments. Thanks. And we'll see y'all again very soon.